Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Iron Man issue 25 slash Legacy 650, 650th issue of Iron Man. And I really enjoyed this issue. It was a nice book and celebration of Iron Man and Cantwell's run on this, while then also giving us two kind of stories that helped kind of flesh out different kind of eras of Iron Man, mainly around the same time that like Thor was unworthy, and then a kind of older school one where he was still thought of as the bodyguard of Tony Stark. And the first one is definitely interesting because it focuses on Iron Man Day and how Tony's like, well, I was not expecting this kind of stuff, as we see people talking about it on social media, that when he came out of his fake coma, people had were reacted with joy, and that they decided to do like an Iron Man Day. And of course Tony's like, well, this is kind of nutty, and he goes back and forth in the story of like, should he tell people, should he not tell people, and that's definitely, I understand trying to figure out the whole kind of balance on that, because he's like, I don't need you guys to do an Iron Man Day, but some people are like into it and kind of need that, and I kind of like that that's explored a little bit. Let's see here. And then of course he's kind of like talking about how his legacy is a complicated one, how people would react that he's got like a warehouse full of like the most dangerous weapons ever, as like Rhodey and Bethany are kind of trying to figure out what to kind of do with all this and what's going to kind of happen with it. And then just giving us a rundown of what we've already seen, like buying Source Control's inventory, Spy Master and Carl in the Dark Force dimension. And Bethany just like, how long am I supposed to watch over this stuff? And Rhodey's like, I don't know, man. And then we see that he's talking about how he always is now constantly thinking and worrying about Riri, dealing with the Mandarin's rings and all that. That that he trusts her, but that he worries like every 12 minutes of every day that Boss actually, his AI, has a like logged output spreadsheet of that. And then we actually get some update on Hellcat, who's still just in San Francisco and doing her kind of stuff with evidently some kind of ghosts and Alcatraz and everything. So it's like, okay, she's doing some supernatural stuff. Cool that they link her up with that and have her kind of doing her own thing. Let's see. Tony thinks that she's having a good time out there, seeing old friends, making new ones, fighting demons, that kind of stuff. And that they haven't really talked in weeks. He misses her, but he tries to make sure that Boss doesn't have him like a spreadsheet on that. And then we see that he's pretty much trying to figure out the whole stuff with Iron Man Day, being like, he's honored, and he knew it would piss some people off, but like if he turned it down, he knew that would piss off more people, as we see that some are excited and some aren't, with people being like, yay Iron Man, and other ones like, boo Iron Man kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, Tony's definitely a kind of complicated one. He's an interesting hero and one of my favorites because he, like, when he's on point and he's able to kind of like get out of his own way, he does some really kind of cool stuff. But then there's one that he like goes with the Superhero Registration Act and cloning Thor that kills people. And then recently in the whole like Judgment thing, he fucking brings back a Celestial that tries to judge the entire planet. And all different kind of stuff. Like, and then he had his whole kind of brain flipped with the whole Axis thing and was like doing shit with like a symbiote armor and trying to like spread extremis on a lot of people. So Tony's definitely got complicated stuff going on. And he's like, most people don't care, which is really fine. As we then see people in a park, we see someone talking about like a climate change kind of thing. Somebody's saying, hey, Spidey saved that little girl, as we get a little Spidey kind of thing there, which isn't the last kind of Spidey cameo. And then he's just trying to think of like what he says at this thing, which is always a thing that you always kind of want to think about. It's like, I don't even know. And then he like runs into some drunk people who are like, holy shit, they're blitzed and it's not even like 11 a.m. It's like, Iron Man, woo! And he's like, alright, you guys stay safe. So at first he was kind of pretty much flying to clear his head. Now he kind of is start like walking around to kind of like see what's kind of going on. He says he could go off with a cuff. But then he like sees the stage. He's like, I'm gonna do a little bit more flying. gets a couple blocks east. Then, of course, he starts like juggling around with thinking of like telling them kind of stuff, but he just needs more space to kind of clear his head. Which, incidentally enough, he starts going down in like the subway system. Let's see, and everybody's pretty much cleared out for like the Iron Man day. But then he finds that like somebody slumped over, and he goes over to them to kind of like see what's kind of going on with them. Very no blocked airway, slow pulse, irregular, very faint, maybe even a cardiac event, as he's trying to call 911 and get help for this person. And then, even though I just listed all the kind of crazy stuff that Iron Man has done, this I really like in that he tries to help this person. He's got this Iron Man Day thing, but he's like shouting for assistance. He's trying to get in contact. He gets in contact with 911. He talks about how he's got somebody that's unresponsive. They got units heading down, but they might not make it. He starts juggling if he should fly him to a hospital or not, and then starts doing... he sees that the pulse is absent, so he starts doing pretty much CPR. And he's smart enough to take off his gauntlets, at least to do the pulsing and everything, but it's not getting anything on, and he does have a defibrillator in his gauntlets, which is cool, and I like kind of bringing that, even though Tony's built this armor to help people, like, offensively, there are kind of medical things that he's got, where he even starts getting into his head that, like, I try to stop thinking about how I should improve this defibrillator because it's just a basic AED, and then he's thinking of, like, further iterations, more robust. But see, I get that part. That's one of the parts that I kind of connect with on Tony. Not that I go completely out of my way to try and reinvent certain things, but like how to make certain things better. And he starts shocking him, and it works a little bit. He like grabs his hand, tells him to kind of hold on and stay with him, but he then loses consciousness again. And he's like, damn it. So he decides to take the chance and flies him to like the nearest hospital, which incidentally enough is like the hospital that Korvac carried Tony into. And he pretty much sits there, and we see that somebody's pretty much saying, I know Iron Man wanted to be here with you today to feel your gratitude. I could only guess that he was called away to do something heroic, yet again on behalf of all of us. As we see him talking to the doctor, and then looking dejected as he walks out, saying that he didn't even take his fucking helmet off. And I do like seeing that kind of bit of him saying that there's something heroic that he's doing. And even though people could imagine that this would be a small thing, it's not like he's stopping an invasion. He's not stopping some kind of nuclear weapon or some kind of even more dangerous weapon. He's just trying to save someone, and that's good. Like, that's still good. That's still worthy. And I'm like, yeah, even if I went to like an Iron Man day and he didn't show up, if I'm knowing that he's trying to help someone and trying to save someone, even if it's just one person, that is why he does what he does, you know? Like, he tries to help people. Granted, he sometimes gets in his own way, but that I liked. I really liked that he did that, even though he didn't succeed. You know what I mean? Because then we see him kind of dejected, kind of going towards pretty much a bar. As someone's saying, hey, I'm pretty sure they'll do one on the house for you on your special day. But then Patsy shows up, and she's like, oh, no, we're good, right, Tony? And, of course, her and the rest pretty much heard what happened on the scanners, what he was trying to do, that he waited in, how Iron Man was in an emergency room for, like, heard what he tried to do, and she's, like, saying that she's sorry and that it happens all too often, and then asks him to come with her to the Avengers Mansion, which I like that kind of little callback. And she wants to show him something, and he's talking about how like it's Iron Man Day. Like I said, most people don't care, but some people do. And so just come inside, and they all figured that he might feel a little weird about today, so we wanted to be here for you at the end of it as your friends, as we see the big kind of friends that he's got with Cap saying, Happy Iron Man Day, Tony, which I'm glad that they had him there. And you got Thor, Rhodey, you got Spidey, you got Thing, you got all the rest that he's kind of worked with, and Riri there, and you just see Tony's happy face, and I'm like, yay, that's really kind of cool. I like that kind of thing. That's always nice to see. And that's the end of that one. As we then go to pretty much the first of the little kind of things as we see that Iron Man is going into Jotunheim with a pretty cool looking armor, and we learned throughout this that he's trying to find Thor. So, because it's like this person of interest, so he's going through, and I really love the artwork in this. It's really fucking cool. It just really showcases the craziness of Jotunheim while also doing well with Iron Man's armor as he's just going through this weird kind of environment that he normally doesn't really go into. As he then pretty much is talking to his AI Brian, and we see days trickling past and everything. He pretty much gets into a tussle with a statue, using enough of his energy to kind of like blast it out, but his power is kind of critically low, but he was able to kind of get through there, toss in this head, and we see that it's when, of course, Thor was unworthy, and just going by Odinson. And then we see that the statue is like, yeah, Thor's awesome. And that Tony's talking how like the statue might have a freaking crush on him. And it's funny, he's like, so I got a distress signal from you. What's up? And he's like, I didn't send any. What are you looking at? And Tony's like, yeah, this is usually when the villain kind of creeps out to do whatever they were kind of doing. And Tony then explains that he's got implants in most Avengers. If anyone's sugar level, brain activity, or blood pressure goes beyond a predefined range, it sends a distress signal. You haven't been to Midgard in a while, and you haven't drunk mead in exactly 1 month today. And that's only possible if you're dead or in captivity. It's like, yeah, that makes sense that like Thor's kind of distress signal kind of thing would be kind of different than the mortals. And, of course, he's talking about, like, him going by Odinson, him bringing up the whole Mjolnir thing. Tony then offers to make him a new hammer, jokingly saying we might have to melt down Wolverine for the adamantium, some borrowed Wakandan vibranium, and, like, some stuff that Reed has in his lab that he doesn't know that I know about. And then we'll give you, like, this awesome-ass hammer with, like, electricity. But then Thor goes into like the whole kind of story of how Odin created Mjolnir and that it chose him and that nothing that he can fashion could ever feel the same. And then it's funny because Tony's able to connect with Odinson on this, saying like, over the years I've discovered at least 10 more efficient ways to power my suit, but he keeps going back to the arc reactor because he can't stop picturing the smile on his father's face. And let me see. Can't stop picturing the smile on his face if he saw what I've done with his designs. Like he was still here. Like, look, Dad, I've got it to work. So he put a dangerous power source over his chest because it brings him more comfort than if it wasn't there. And that the special feeling he gets from Mjolnir is not gone. It's with you. It can't be taken away from us. And Odinson's like, you are a true friend, Stark, and your father would be very proud, but I'm sorry, I still need my hammer. And then Tony's like, damn it, this is why Cat does those kind of speeches and everything. He's like, I don't want to ride this goat. He's like, so you'd rather choose death? And he's like, well, I'm thinking, because of, like, what's going on with his thrusters being damaged. So it's like, yeah, that was a cool little thing of a nice kind of connective kind of story between Tony and Odinson at a kind of low point for Odinson. And I kind of like that. It's not one that I would have immediately picked for this comic, but it worked very well and I liked it. And then we get Battle Behind the Bamboo Curtain, kind of set during kind of like the early days as, let's see, evidently Madame Mask tried to like kidnap this senator dude, and he's like being like rah, 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 rah. And Tony's like, listen, I couldn't drop you off in your home state, man. We got like more immediate problems. And he's bringing up this, like, if we hadn't diverted our flight to save your armored hide, it's like, you'd be in the hands of her master now. Would that be better? And then, of course, Tony's got power issues with his armor, but he can't let Madame Mask know that. So, of course, they're kind of scouting the area to kind of see what's going on. And even Madame Mask is like, hey, he's smart to, like, scan the area and everything. but we learned that he can't raise a peep from Stark Industries with his communicator, so it's like, oh god. But then we jump to like Long Island HQ for Stark Industries, and we see that Happy and Pepper are trying to figure out what's kind of going on. That, let's see. Let's see, who is this dude? Let's flip in real quick. Oh, maybe it was Tony. We see one of his guys was pretty much, let's see, Eddie March was like used by the Mandarin to kind of like carry out this plot. And of course he's trying to like he wanted the senator in his grasp, but at least closer to full international humiliation. So he decides to send someone else to kind of go after, and that, of course, he activates the radioactive man. And, of course, the senator's like, I'm hungry, I'm cold. And Tony's like, I gotta fucking deal with this shit, hold on. And, of course, radioactive man's, like, out of favor with his government. He's like, if I do this, I'll be back in favor with it. And it's like, oh god. You get the kind of old school kind of like, alright, over my dead body, let me see. You take bird over my dead body, green jeans. As he then pretty much starts like beating the crap out of Iron Man. He gets like thrown off a kind of like cliff kind of place. And then he goes after Madame Mask. But she's able to use her gun to take out his gun. And then he's like trying to go after her. Before, bam, he's pretty much wrapped up in kind of like lead kind of tape kind of stuff, bindings, lead foil wrappings. And Tony's pretty much augmented himself to get more power, and then just pretty much goes to town on him. And he pretty much is just using his fists so that way he doesn't blast away the lead foil lining that's pretty much dampening radioactive man's powers. And Madame Mask's like, you might want to reconsider having Iron Man as an enemy. So, Radioactive Man's pretty much down. And then he's able to get back into contact with Stark Industries, having S.H.I.E.L.D. sent out there. And then giving him the whole kind of information about the rings. And he tells that to pretty much Madame Mask of like, you either help me or get out of my way. Like, well, you either help Tony, Iron Man, or I'm telling you right now, lady, you'll fall with him. And then that's the end of that. We get a little tease of the relaunch of the series, The Invincible Iron Man, that'll be happening in December. As we see somebody's trying to kill Stark, and that She-Hulk's trying to represent him, deserves the benefit of the doubt. And that evidently Howard didn't tell some kind of truth, which falls in line with Howard Stark. Something's going on with Stark Unlimited. The mistakes of the past are drawing fresh blood today, and I have new enemies. Who avenges your victims, Mr. Stark? Or somebody with a gun. As we all then also see Tony in his armor. It's like, ooh, yeah, I cannot wait to see how that goes on in the new series. So, I really actually liked all three of the stories in this. And it is also $5.99. So, granted, it is a milestone 650 issue. So, I got my money's worth out of it. So, if I liked it, I can understand that that's a kind of steeper price point for people. And it's like the 650th, the end of a kind of run. So, if you're not into it, I can totally understand that. But I enjoyed it. I like seeing Iron Man kind of grapple with like an Iron Man Day and a kind of celebration for him, and then dealing with that by actually trying to help somebody, failing that, but also having his friends come and try and give him a better kind of end of the day. That was a really kind of cool thing, and I really enjoyed that. And then seeing Iron Man and Thor bond over the different kind of stuff that means so much to them in their heroic lives. Mjolnir with Thor and the arc reactor with Tony. And then just seeing a classic kind of tale of Tony having to deal with a crazy situation with Madam Mask and Radioactive Man. And I can't wait to see what the new creative team does and the direction that we've got set up, since we know that Tony's pretty much broke because of what he did with Source Control. He's going to have somebody gunning for him. And when he's on the back foot like that, that can have some interesting kind of stories. I don't mind that they go back to that well, because it's an interesting one to see how he builds himself back up, what he does with his tech when he's got limited kind of resources, and what can overall happen like that. So, looking forward to that. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.